Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Stay tuned for politics and religion.
Well, this comes to us from Israel National News today. The day of reckoning is fast approaching for Iran. Now, we all know that Iran has been the lightning rod for tensions in the Middle East. They're the number one supplier of equipment, suicide bombs, rockets to Hezbollah and to Hamas. And yet this article's interesting because it's not really talking about the possibility of the world community of attacking Iran or Israel attacking Iran. It's stating that the internal problems of the Iranian regime may well be boiling over to the point that there may be a regime change. Let me give you a little bit of an outline of what they're saying here. An Iranian pro-democracy activist provided Israel National News with impressions from a visit to Tehran just before the widespread student protest there earlier this week. The report by an Iranian who currently lives in the West begins with a clear declaration. Let me make one thing completely clear. Most everyone hates, with a capital H, this murderous regime. Speaking of the ruling force, the ruling power in Iran. The Iranian expatriate who goes by the pen name Mehdi 2009 claims to have spoken with ordinary people throughout all sectors of the Iranian capital over a 2-day period. Make no mistake about it, at least 9 out of 10 people that I was able to talk with hate Khomeini, and above all, Ahmadinejad, he said. Now, what's all this amount to here? We are seeing widespread protest, even though to involve yourself in those protests actually risk your life. We know many have been shot. We know that the crackdowns have been severe and without mercy. Yet we still see thousands of people out there risking their lives protesting. So what is fueling this fire? Is the West stirring these things up? Are we funneling money in there through the back door in order to create these situations? I can't answer those questions for you. However, this man who was just in Iran, he is from Iran. He says, I promise you, the people don't simply dislike the Ahmadinejad regime. The people absolutely hate this regime. Well, if the feelings are that deep and that vocal, then the days of this regime certainly could be numbered. Now, what makes this so interesting from a prophetic standpoint? We know the Bible prophesies in Ezekiel chapter 38 that Iran, under the name Persia, will come down against Israel at the time of the Battle of Armageddon. And furthermore, that Iran will be in alliance with Russia as well as with other nations. Well, it's so interesting to see the present alignment of Iran with Russia. I mean, they're very tight allies. Russia's the principal supplier of military equipment into Iran. So what do we make of this then? Is there going to be regime change? And could that possibly put off the inevitable day of reckoning? And yet the animosity still be there to hold over until Armageddon. We know we're at least 7 years away from Armageddon. Now, we also know there's another war coming, World War III. And so we have to say, okay, what will trigger this war? This war has to come out of the Euphrates River area. Will it be an Israeli attack on Iran? Will it be a U.S. attack on Iran? Or could it be something totally different? That's something we don't have the answer to. All we know is the Bible says that this war that is coming will emanate from the Euphrates River. So if the regime were toppled and yet the animosity would remain among the Iranian people, whoever would assume power there, then that would explain how Iran will still be allied with Russia. We simply don't know the answer. Maybe they'll be involved in World War III and then also involved at the Battle of Armageddon. That we don't know. But it's interesting to catch a glimpse of what's going on inside the mind of the Iranian people right now. We'll have to wait and see for some of these answers.